The second half of tonight's homework is more review. The first set of directions asks us to write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line through the 2 points. So the first step is to find the slope of the line. So remember, the slope formula goes this way. It is m equals, m stands for slope, and it's the difference of the y values. So y goes on top, and then we have x's on the bottom. So it's rise over run. And then we just need to figure out what the y values are. Well, the y values are the second numbers in the ordered pair, so we have 1 minus 3. So notice how I started with this point. So when I write the x values, I'm going to start with that same point's x value. So I'm doing 1 minus negative 5. Whenever I've got a minus negative, always change it to plus positive or minus positive plus negative, and then do the work. And so in this case, we end up with a negative 2 over a positive 6. Well, we can reduce that fraction by taking out a common factor of 2, and we end up with negative 1/3. So that's our slope. We're going to use that slope, and we're going to use one of the points. Let's use this point right now, and we're going to put it into this point-slope formula. Remember, the point-slope formula goes this way. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so we go ahead and take our point, negative 5, 3, and our slope, negative 1/3, and put it in for y1, m, and x1. So it's going to read this way. Y minus, and then you write down the positive 3, equals negative 1/3 times by x minus negative 5. So go ahead and do some work there. We're going to distribute the negative 1/3, and we're going to also add the opposite here as we do that distributive property, and we're left with a y minus 3 equals negative 1/3 x. Now here, treat that as 5 over 1. No cross-canceling here, so we just rewrite what we've got. Negative 5/3 is what it is. It's a negative because the negative times the positive made a negative. And then from that point, we need to move this 3 over. Now, what we do is add it to both sides. Now, instead of writing 3, I'm going to treat 3 as a fraction. See, 3 over 1 is the same thing as just saying 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 3 and modify it some more. We're going to be able to combine it with this 5/3. So I'm going to multiply this by 3/3. See, 3/3 times by 3 over 1 is going to give us an equivalent fraction. And so that gives me 9/3. So that's the way I'm going to represent 3. So I'm going to add 9/3. Well, when I combine these two, you see how they're opposite in sign, so we actually need to end up subtracting. So our answer is going to be this. Y equals negative 1/3 x, and then here I subtract these two numbers, so it makes a positive 4/3. And you can leave your answer just like that. And you'll see some of the problems on tonight's homework will be like that, where your y-intercept will not be a whole number or even an integer for that matter. And so from there, let's take a look at the next one. We're going to go ahead and just plug the points into our slope formula. Remember, we're taking the difference of the y values. So the 8 and the 9, those are the numbers that go on top. And then we take the difference of the x values. Remember, these are the x values. Those go on the bottom. So I started with the 8, so I got to start with the 7. And then I do that work. Let's see what we get. So we go ahead and subtract up top. Remember, there's more negatives than positives, so that makes a negative 1. Down below, positive 1. So we reduce that. That makes negative 1. So all you're going to do is take one of the points. Let's take this point here, 7, 8, and put it in that point slope formula. It goes y minus 8 equals negative 1 times x minus 7. And so from there, you just distribute that negative 1 over that subtraction. So let's see what we get when we do that. We still have this y minus 8, but now it equals negative x, or negative 1x, plus 7. I see a lot of errors right there. I was grading tests last week, and I continue to see that sign error. Watch the sign there. Negative times a negative makes a positive. Or even if it was a negative and a positive, it would make a negative. So watch that sign. That's a common mistake. So from there, we go ahead and do an opposite operation, get y by itself. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides, and I get my answer. Y equals negative x plus 15. Well, that is writing an equation. Remember, when you see the words write an equation, you're using that point-slope formula. This one right here. If you don't have the slope, then you have to use this formula first. So that's the key. Well, the next set of directions asks us to change gears. We got to solve some systems of equations, and we're going to solve by elimination. And elimination kind of makes sense on these problems. So I look at these, and I think it'd be easiest just to multiply this equation by 3. Could multiply it by negative 2 to cancel out the y's, but either way, not either number's kind of small, so it's not too big of a deal. Multiply, and no signs change, because it's just a positive we're multiplying by. Negative 3x plus 3y equals negative 6. Go ahead and bring this equation down. We've got 3x plus 2y, and then this all equals positive 6. When we add this together, we get something that happens. These cancel out, but we're left with 5y equals 0. Now, here I see some people are scared about this 0. They don't know what to do. They think, oh, it's a no solution. I don't know what to do. I divide by 5, and how many times does 5 go into 0? Well, you had flashcards like this before. Remember this flashcard? 0 divided by 5? Well, anytime you divide any number into 0, you get 0. And that's what we have here, 0 divided by 5. And so we have y equals 0. No big deal, 0 is a fine number. Let's go ahead and substitute back right into one of these equations and solve for x. Let's put it into that original equation before we modified it right here. See, what's nice about that is we don't have the y term because it's 0. So we have just negative x plus 0 equals negative 2. So all we have to do, this term we didn't even need to write down because 0 plus a number doesn't change anything. So the only thing I have to do here is just divide by negative 1 or multiply by negative 1. Gives me that same answer either way. So now I'm left with x equals 2. So there it is. X is 2 and y is 0. There is our answer. Well, the next one requires a little bit more work because both equations need to be modified. Now, we could cancel out the x's, but I'm going to choose to cancel out the y's. So let's do that. Let's multiply by negative 3 on the first one, and how about a positive 2 on the second one? So let's see what we get when we do this. Well, we go ahead and multiply that first equation. Every number by negative 3 makes a positive 15x. Here we have a negative 6y. And here, multiply the 2 and the 3, get 6. And we have a 3 and 3 makes 9. So 96, and it's negative. So the common mistake I'm going to see is just messing up on a multiplication problem up here or a sign error. And then people think, oh, what do I do? The number's not going to go into it evenly. I'm not getting a good answer. Well, go back and check this math right here. This is where errors occur most often. Multiplying, because you're multiplying over all these numbers, and sometimes you mess up, sometimes you add, or sometimes you just don't multiply. So check this multiplication first if you don't think the answer's right. So here we have 4x, and here we have a positive 6y, and this makes 20. So we add this stuff together, and we end up with a 19x. These y's cancel out, and over here we subtract, and we're left with 76. Now here, some people would just give up because they say, I can't do this. This division is way too hard. Divide 19 into 76. Well, just do it. Do it off to the side. See what it is. And if it's not working out, then check your math up here. Maybe you made an error. So we go ahead and do it. Now, as I do this, I think of, okay, 9 times what ends in a 6? Well, the number that comes to mind is like a 3, because that makes, you see, 9 times 4 makes 36. So I'm going to, I think this might end up being 4. Let's just try it, see what happens. If it's not, we'll fix it and go with something else. So here this makes 36, and I carry the 3, and 4 times 1 makes 4 plus 3 makes 7. Oh, that did end up working. See, that's what I look for. I just look at the last digit of those numbers that multiply and see if it equals the last digit in the dividend. And it does. So x is 4. So let's go ahead and substitute that. Let's put it into this equation, the second equation right here, before we modified it and rewrite what we've got. 2x. Oh, but in place of x, we're going to put that number, we're going to put that 4 right here. And then we write down plus 3y equals 10. So we go ahead and do the math, and that makes 8 plus 3y equals 10. Well, we just have a subtraction problem to do, and we have to subtract that 8 from both sides. And we're ending up with a fraction here. So we get this 3y equals 2. So when you do this and you think, oh, maybe something's wrong, maybe you should go back and check, see if it ends up making sense. Maybe I made an error somewhere. And I did. I see it now. So when you're getting an answer like this, sometimes you will get answers that are fractions. But if you are, look back and see if you made an error. Now there's an error I made in there. Hopefully you might have caught it already, but I see it now. Look right here. Here I'm subtracting, but which one has more? The negatives have more. So this should have been a negative 76, not a positive. And that's going to switch my sign. It becomes a negative 4. And then this one right here. So going back and checking your work might not require erasing all the work. You might have just missed a sign like I missed here. And that changes the answer because now it's a negative 8. And so instead of subtracting, I need to now add. And you see I still bring down this 3y, but in place of this 2, I can erase that and then write the number that you really get. And the number that you get when you combine the 10 and the 8 by adding is 18. And now we can do some division. And so we're getting a number that we think is right now. And so I divide by that 3, and I'm getting y as 6. So that looks a lot better. So we've got our answer. It is negative 4, 6. So there's a good lesson for you. It's just look at those signs, look at the multiplication, make sure that you've done things right the first time.